Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. My name is Mr. Boniface. Today I want us to cover structured programming language using C programming language. In this language, I want us to cover on the control structures. And what are control structures? Control structures are used to alter the flow of execution of program depending on the type of control structure that you choose. For example, you may decide to execute all the statements in the program or a specific statement and skip the rest depending on the structure that you choose. For example, we have three types of control structures in C, which are one, sequence structure, that is straight line paths, that is whereby all the statements are executed from the top to the bottom. The other one, it is the selection stroke decision structure, one that is one or many branches. This means you select a specific statement to execute depending on the condition that will provide to your program. The third one is the loop repetition iteration structure, that is the repetition of a set of activities. This whereby you execute statements repetitively depending on the condition that you provide. In this, we first check on the sequence structure, or set line path. These statements are executed in sequence in order of their appearance, starting from the top to bottom. For example, we have a question here: write a C program to execute a program to calculate area of a circle. When writing a program, there are three things that you should put in mind or consider. One is the variables that you need, that is the memory where you will have to store your data that you want to use in calculation. You think of constants, which these constants are values that don't change during program execution. For example, like pi, that one doesn't change. You also think of input and output, how your program, or you input data to your program and how you will output. So for example, when you write this program, this is an example of a program that I did using the Falcon compiler. A program to calculate area of a circle. You can see normally you begin your program with hash include standard input output. That is the example. So you can see here we have the radius. Then we have the float area. So you have to decide which type of data will be stored in the variables that you provide here. Still, not forgetting the pi, which is constant. Here I've declared is hash define pi, and I've given it that. Yeah, then after you declare your variables, you also do the function printf, which is the output function, the scanf, the input, which will now enable us to store our input to the radius. Then the process, whereby now we'll calculate the area of the circle. From there, then you output the area, which is the type float, because it has a floating point or decimal point. You have to specify the output will be a floating point, then area, then that. After you are through with that, now the output will be that's program output. This is it. Then when you run the program, you see this on the screen. Enter the radius. Here I chose to enter 5. Then after you press enter, then now you get your area that way. So that is how you do the sequence. Now let us check on now the selection stroke decision structure, whereby now you choose one statement to execute depending on the condition you provide. And what is the selection decision structure? Decision-making structure requires that the programmer specifies one or more conditions to be evaluated or tested by the program, along the statement or statements to be executed if the condition is determined to be true, and optionally, other statements to be executed if the condition is determined to be false. Now, so let us check on how we can do about that. So in this, we'll learn on or we'll use the if statement and switch statement. Let us check on an example. Write a program to calculate the area of a circle only when r is 0. So this is the example of the program. We have begun the program, declared my constant, began with main. Then here you can see I've declared my variable r and float area, because here we are calculating area of a circle if the radius is greater than 0. So we are using if statement, which is a selection statement. Now here, after I enter my r, I store it in the variable r, then the condition comes in. If r is greater than 0, you calculate the area, whereby the area is pi times pi r squared is that, then you output the area. Else, now you will not output anything. The program should output invalid input if you enter r that is below than 0. Then let us check the output, or the nested if. The nested if. An if statement consists of a Boolean expression, and when we talk of Boolean, it means true or false. Condition true or false. Expression followed by one or more statements. If the Boolean expression evaluates to true, then the block of code inside the if statement will be executed. If the Boolean expression evaluates to be false, then the first set of code that at the end of the if statement after the closing curly bracket will be executed. Let us check an example. Wrote a C program of students grading system using the table below. Now here we want to put grade according to the averages. For example, when the average is greater than or equal to 70, that one will give distinction. If it is greater than or equal to 60 is a credit, greater than or equal to 40 is a pass, less than 40 is a fail. Let's now check the program. For example, when I execute, I code my program, this is it using if statement, which is nested if. You can see here I begin my program with main, I declare my variable max, then printf, the output function, enter the max. On the screen I see that. So when I enter the max, will be stored in my variable max. So the condition is if max is greater than 0 and max is less than or equal to 39, that is that will output fail. Else if max is greater than 40 and less than or equal to 59, that is a pass. Else if max is greater than 60 and max is less than or equal to 79, then output will be credit. Else, now distinction. Output. This is it. When I run the program, I'll see on the screen, enter the max, I type, for example, 50. The output now comes, now the 50 is pass. That is netted in function. Now let us check on switch statement. It's also a selection program with decision control structure. So a switch statement allows a variable to be tested or quality test for equality, test the equality against a list of values. Each value is called a case, and the variable being switched on is checked for each switch case. Let's check an example. Write a C program to input a number and output corresponding day in the table below. For example, if it's Monday, you input 1 will output Monday. You input 2 Tuesday, 3 4 week midweek, 5 members day, 6 a weekend. Then these are my program. Here that declared variable day, output function is that the scan f, which is input value, which will do the day that I'll enter. If I enter 1 will be stored here. Then switch case day, case 1 output Monday, you break. Case 2, that. Case 3 for midweek, 5 members day, and that. So when I run this program, the output will be on the screen, enter the number of days. So for example, I decide to enter 5. What is the output? The output will be the day members day. That is switch case control structure. Now let us check on looping. Looping repetition iteration structure is a repetition of a set of activities. This whereby you want to execute statements repetitively. For example, a loop statement allows us to execute a statement or group of statements multiple times repetitively until certain conditions met. Let's check on an example. Okay, in this we'll cover on types of loops, which is precondition. This whereby a condition is first tested before executing statement inside the loop. It has a minimum of 0 iteration. Yeah, in here you have to check on condition first, so meaning there's no executions done, so it has minimum 0 repetition. For example, in this we'll use while loop and for loop. Still, we have another post condition loops. This whereby the statement inside the loop is first executed, then condition is tested. Yeah, so it has a minimum of 1 iteration, so it will put at least once before it tests the condition. In this, we'll cover on loop, do, loop. Yeah. Now, let us take an example using while loop. Write a C program using while loop to display integers and terminate or exit from the loop when an integer becomes 0 through keyboard input. In this example of the program, for example, I begin my program, I declare my variable which is num, I enter the num, so condition comes in, while num is greater than 0, you print out num equal to num minus minus. So it means that this program will execute all this statement if the num it is within the range greater than 0. So if it will now become 0 or less than, then the program will terminate. So when I output this program, this is the it will output the numbers or the values. So we can check another example of do while. I like for and while loops, which tests the loop condition at the top of the loop. The do while loop in C programming checks its condition at the bottom of the loop. A do while loop is similar to a while loop, except that the fact that it is guaranteed to execute at least one time. Let us check an example. Write a C program to output numbers divisible by 3, I think, from 10 to 20 using do while. Let's check. Yeah, this is the program. Okay, maybe the question is different from the example I have here. My example, it is a program that is executing numbers from 10 to 20, yeah, within that range. So this is the program. So int main do printf, that is it. I output now a equal to a plus 1. When you say a plus 1, it means it is the variable a which will be incremented by 1s, incrementing by 1 until the condition is met. So it means it will put at least once before it tests the condition. That is using the do while. Let us check another example for for statement. A for loop is a repetition control structure that allows you to efficiently write a loop that needs to execute a specific number of times. So this one is execute number of times. For example, write a C program to output pattern of 3 columns. Yeah, so this is a program which will give us pattern of 3 columns. So write that you declare the variable k and I, whereby the k will carry the rows and I will carry the columns. So here we initialize where we are beginning. The k should begin from 1 output. So for k is equal to 1, k is less than or equal to 5, k plus. So we are giving it a conditional limit where it should execute to 5. So when it reaches 5, now it will be terminated the execution. So we're incrementing the rows. Then still you open a curly bracket for I beginning from 1, the same as that, the same as k. I is less than or equal to 5, so it means you should output also 5 times as the rows. So the column should also be 5, so they should be equal. I plus plus. Printf, now we're outputting the column, the I. So k equal to k plus 1, then printf break. After one row, it breaks to the next row. So this line break. Yeah, the backward slash n is, we call them escape sequence, which is will now give us the break of line after line, break to the next one, then you return 0 output. And we know when we talk about outputting 0, it means that the function which main should output at least a value when it is executed. Thank you. This is my end of my presentation. Thank you and welcome.